I'm Riley Harvey for BCN, and this is Wednesday night. We are live with the onlineeventscompany.com, and this is the City Crit event, a new event. This is the inaugural race in the series, brought to you by the Online Events Company and available directly through the RGT app and also through the onlineeventscompany.com website. And we encourage you to get over there and to sign up. It's a bi-weekly series, so that'll be taking place alternate Wednesday nights at 7:30 every evening. As I say, this is the first of the events, and it's looking like it's got some good sign-up numbers for an inaugural event. We will be covering these events every Wednesday as they come through. Tonight we have got a Zoom room which has just got Richard Akers from RIAK in there as our guinea pig, but we will be opening up the Zoom room every week to encourage people to get involved, to show us their pain caves and to let us see how they're getting on with the event. Hoping it'll build into a big event, and it's certainly got a lot of effort being put behind it in the background. So anybody who's watching and wants to get involved, there's a Zoom room link on the Online Events Company website. That's the onlineeventscompany.com, and you can get in there and get yourself signed up for the Zoom room. I don't know if you noticed at the beginning that there is it's been brought to you with the help of some of our sponsors, which is Stolen Goat and You Perform and Paleo Valley. And if you're interested in any of those, then there's links in the description that will take you through to their pages, and you can help yourself to some discounts off their products. We are just starting off. It's a 2-lap race. It's going to be fast and furious. Now Richard Akers there blasts off, taking an early lead. There's Melville and Bovary in second and third positions there. You saw Richard's avatar making a little glance to the side there. That's using the look behind feature that is in RGT, where you can just hit a button and the avatar will look around and it'll give you a view of the riders that are chasing you. We can see there we've got a little chase group of 3, which is Melville, Mendes and Bovary. They're just being joined by Egger now. An aggressive start by Richard has caught them off guard, and he's managed to open up a gap on the front of this race. We'll see whether Melville, Bovary and Egger and now Mendes all work together to close down Richard Akers. You see that group's growing now, as well as I think it's Carcella comes across. Egger's just fading slightly there. Carcella's coming across. Richard Akers out in front, 336 watts being displayed there for a moment. We have got a significant climb in the middle of this event. We've got quite a hill in this section. It is a segment, so part of the plan with these races is that they will have a segment section within all of the races, so that if you're not challenging for the overall GC title on the crit, you can challenge for the segment title. See Egger there just pushing on in the Canyon Esports jersey, and Melville jump into the wheel. .3 kilometers covered. Perhaps Melville and Egger here just playing the long game and hoping that Akers will tire somewhat as the race goes on. A couple of ascents up that climb will be enough to tire anybody's legs and take the enthusiasm out. Acres pushing in the 3.4 watts per kilogram there. Chase group swells 5 now. Well, we're in the early section of the race here. We'll just have a quick look through and name check the riders that are in the race. We are live on a number of social media channels, so if you're interested in touching base with us, then feel free to get involved. All of the chats will come through to one central chat location, and I'll respond to you through the chat as well. It doesn't matter if you're chatting to us through Twitch or Facebook or YouTube, they'll all come back down to the same location. So currently in second place, just being overtaken there, we've got Basalotti, and then there was a close-up, very close-up of Bovary there. And we've Melville. James Melville is a frequent rider in the RGT events. With Bovary riding under Team 3R. Egger. There's Mendez, who was in that chase group but has now been slightly distanced. The elastic seems to have snapped a little bit for Mendez there. Carcella coming through. There's AVP. And then we've another Carcella. My eyes were deceiving me briefly then. We thought we'd had just the one Carcella, but there's actually two in the event. So back up at the front end of the race, we've got Richard Akers here just taking on this climb. Bit of a brute of a climb, this one. It's the first time that Richard is attacking it. You see his power's up there at 356 watts. Cadence, high cadence for a climb at 94. Really keeping the legs spinning fast as he's going up this climb. I can really see here the effort that Richard's putting in out of the saddle, getting up this climb, pushing hard. Coming towards the crest now. It's a 15% climb at the moment. See Richard's pain cave as well with his prized possessions behind him there. Nicely displayed caps. For those who aren't familiar, Richard Akers runs RIAK Coaching. They provide a lot of the coaching material that was on RGT. As Richard just comes to the top of the climb there, sits down in the saddle, takes a breather. Heart rate up at 162 there. Just have a look back at how the other riders are coping with this further down the field. So the next riders should be coming into this section shortly. There we've got Melville, Overy coming through. We're about to crest on this climb. Egger chasing on there. Gap to Richard Akers now up to 730, 740 meters. That really aggressive start that Richard put in is paying dividends at the moment. Slight descent here into a medium climb for Richard Akers, and then another aggressive slope. Melville gets past there, just coming up to the crest. It's good timing by Egger there, coming up to the crest of the climb. Melville pushes to try and keep that wheel into the descent. Melville going past. Melville, Bovary, Egger. Now a group of 3. They're going to have to do the work to chase on after Richard. Either that or it's going to be an early decision to fight for a second place. Just heading up to the halfway point on the race. Melville, Egger and Bovary exchanging places. Richard Akers still comfortable in that solo lead position. So this is event 1 from the series. It is a 6-race series which is going to end on the 20th of September. Each one taking place in a famous landmark, in or around famous landmark. This is London. And each lap starts and finishes on the outer circle of Regent's Park. It heads up through Camden and Kentish Town and takes on the legendary hill climb. That's our time segment of Swains Lane. You can see there that Richard Akers did a time of 2:47.70 on the Swains Lane there. Considerably faster than our other competitors at the moment. He really pushed it on that section of the course. Now sweeping across the top of Hampstead Heath at the moment with Richard Akers. And then rolling back downhill to Regent's Park before starting the whole thing once again. Melville pushing on this climb now. Bovary responding. Egger distance slightly from this group of 3 now. Egger just struggling to hang on here. Is the elastic snapping for him? Bovary passes Melville, pushes on. Melville continues their tempo and Egger just slightly increasing the gap here. You can see the power bar underneath Egger's name. It's turning red currently. That's because Egger's going over and above his FTP. Sorry, their FTP. I'm not sure if it's lady, gentleman. Egger's going over and above their FTP. They're really putting in a big effort there to try and maintain contact with the group of Bovary and Melville, but it is looking like it's going to be separation. Melville just continuing that solid tempo pace. Heart rate of only 145 for Melville there. To go into the descent down towards Regent's Park once again. Contact with our leader once again. We've got Richard here. Just coming up to the end of the descent. Coming close to starting the second lap. It's got Richard Akers now on the live stream and on the virtual, coming up to the end of the first lap. Looking quite composed. Good distance over his nearest rival. Solid tempo. Up out the saddle. Attacking this section. So for those of you not familiar with RGT, RGT does put in auto braking as you're going around corners. So if you're going around a corner particularly fast, it will slow you to a more realistic speed. You may see some of the riders in the Zoom rooms getting out of the saddle at this point. It is to overcome that braking, to get the power back on, to get themselves back up to speed after they've been digitally braked for the corner. So you may see the riders just putting in a little sprint after the corner to get themselves back up to speed before they settle down once again into their rhythm. Switch back. Pick up the second group on the road now. See Melville, Bovary battling. Bovary working on the front here. Now 3.9 watts per kilogram. We are just going through one of those sharp corners. We're in the cockpit with Melville at the moment, and you can see in the top left hand corner there, the green number's just diminished. We'll jump backwards to be on board with Bovary there. See Bovary at the moment in the top left hand corner, he's gaining 70 watts from the draft, but we can just see there with a big acceleration, Melville just now pulling away from Bovary. Those watt saving numbers were diminishing somewhat. The backup saving 100, 110 watts at the moment. So that means roughly we've got raw power on the road of about 240 for Bovary, and he's saving somewhere in the region of about 80 to 90 watts. So he's having the equivalent of 330 watts on the road there, sitting in on the draft of Melville. That 100 watts is a considerable saving. And anybody that was watching the raw watts to the left-hand corner, the top left-hand corner there for Bovary, you may have noticed they were blinking red quite frequently. And that was because Bovary was, if you will, he was bumping into the back of Melville. So he'd been auto-braked from RGT as he bumped into the back of Melville there. And then as he bounced off slightly, it was removing that auto-braking feature. Over in Melville under the start-finish banner there. Next time around, that'll be the finish line for them. Check back in with Ego a little further down the field now. Ego was with this lead group of riders. He got distanced by Bovary and Melville when the two attacked one after the other. So Melville gave a little bit of a burst, and Bovary came around and overtook and just snapped the elastic on Ego, who had been up until that point doing really well in that chase group. Ego now still putting out decent 165 watts per kilogram, but I think he's slightly measuring his efforts now towards the end of the race. Next in the rider listing, we have Carcella. And Carcella pushing out 192 watts. No heart rate monitor on Carcella. Not able to see how much that relates to their efforts, if you will. And they're being followed closely by Solotti. Solotti there can just about make out Carcella in the distance. little carrot. Angling out there for Vassalotti to chase. Mendes here. Mendes absolutely smashing it near the beginning of the race. Keeping up with all the lead riders. Their pace has tailed off somewhat. They're doing 100 and quite variable, pacing actually 170 watts. They're from Team RIAK. Team RIAK very active with ladies racing. There's lots of support from the RIAK group and on their Facebook page for their team of ladies that they have racing, but also towards all ladies that are interested in racing. There's lots of help there from Team RIAK if anybody's interested in getting into the racing or just riding more. They're there to help out. AVP pushing in a big solid effort here. Not quite finishing the first lap yet. And we have the second Carcella on the circuit. Not sure if they are related. Carcella just enjoying a little coast here as they go down that descent. 50 kilometers per hour there as they're going to the -2% slope. At the front here, we still have Richard Akers. Coming up on the climb again. Just about to attack it. Behind Richard, we have some action happening between the group of Melville and Bovary. Melville and Bovary here looking like they are deciding to attack each other. This is the point, I would say, where you're going to see a separation between these two riders. There's a straight up battle between these two riders with a 660 meter gap to Richard Akers. I think it's going to be a straight up battle between these two for second place. As we see the times there for Swains Lane come through, my cam bots have taken the final 10th and 11th places. And Bovary pushes through. Melville sits into the wheel and enjoys that drafting benefit. Richard Akers into the climb. Richard on the early stages of this climb. And he's currently looking quite relaxed. And why wouldn't he with that amount of a lead? We'll just see if Richard's feeling comfortable enough to give us a little bit of a heads up and how he's going and how much he reckons he's going to win this race by.
Not much. They're closing in on me. They're only 300 meters behind, and I'm really starting to struggle. Went up probably a bit too high. But I know John Melville, he's an absolute monster. So yeah, you can say that.
So he's getting a little bit of cross feedback there from the event. Two microphones hitting at the same time. Richard, oh, he's jamming in a gel. He needs the energy to get to the race there. Get the finishes. Saying James Melville is an absolute what monster and he's bearing down on him. He's not feeling comfortable about his lead at all. And it feels like the chase riders are going to close in on him in the last sections of the event. We're going to bring up the two riders that are chasing and see how well they're doing, how much of that gap they're closing down. Hey. So while we just had that break there talking to Richard, I'm able to see that Melville has actually separated from Bovary. I could see an attack coming in a little while ago. That's why we had the camera on them too, the two of them. But while we went over to the Zoom room, Melville has made that attack and has managed to pull away from Bovary. He's coming up this climb really hard. He's at 4.7, 4.9 watts per kilogram. Reduced the gap down to 250 meters and is pushing like a madman to get to the wheel of Richard Akers here. That was the segment banner that we've just gone through there. And it'll be interesting to see here the time of Melville compared to Akers, as we should get the times coming up any second on that segment. Typically, when you rely on them, they don't arrive. But hopefully, they'll be along soon. We'll be able to go through those in the race review at the end. Melville now just into the descent, coasting slightly. The gap's going out a little bit now to Richard Akers. Richard really pushing on this descent, opens the gap to 450 meters once again. Melville just taking it slightly easier, perhaps waiting for the climb to make his efforts more justified. Bovary, though, the distance opening up to Bovary is 750 meters now from Melville to Bovary. Richard Akers now with 6.7 kilometers remaining. Melville pushes out 6.6, 6.8 watts per kilogram. The gap 353 meters. Melville kicking on that small intermediate section, really powering up and trying on any kind of elevation to close that gap down to Richard Akers. Richard coming up on the second significant climb. We're going to see his effort here as he's going into this climb. Got 7% slope here. 40 minutes into the race. Richard Akers really powering here. 5 watts per kilogram. Have to compare that to what Melville puts out. Melville's nearly upon this climb. Richard over the top. Little bit of flat. Falls flat before he gets into the descending once again. Melville now hitting this climb, and Melville hitting it hard. 5.6 watts per kilogram. 5.8, crushing it to get to the top of this climb as fast as possible. Up over 6 there. Melville using the steering, trying to find the shortest line through the corners. Over to the right side of the road. Now heading over to the left-hand side of the road. Steering, a new feature added into RGT relatively recently. Polarized opinions by some of the riders, but several of the racers absolutely swear by it. Love the feeling it gives them. Loves the ability to change lanes, to move out of the draft of one of the riders, or to find the draft of a rider that they want to stay in the wheel of, rather than having the computer automatically do that for them. The RGT devs have brought back some of the auto steering that used to be in the platform to allow a little bit of more relaxed racing attitude. But yeah, as I say, a lot of the serious racers really appreciate that ability to choose the lane. Can shake people off your wheel so that they can't just stay in the draft, hogging the draft all the time and benefiting from all your efforts. Bovary in third position there. His power's gone down to 0. We've lost Bovary. Bovary has left the race. I don't know if that's a technical or whether they've not willing to fight for third position, as Melville continues pushing in second here. Now 3.3 kilometers back to the nearest racer. 470 meters to Richard Akers, with the gap opening slightly as Richard's into the descent. On the home straight, it would appear. I think it's going to be very hard for Melville to cover that distance in descent. Made some fantastic gains on those climbs, but it's just not managed to recoup enough distance on that flat section, in my opinion. Richard Akers pushing on the front here. Melville in second position. As I said in the intro to the race, this is a bi-weekly event. It will be every 2 weeks, this being the first one. You don't have to take part in every single race in the series. You can just jump in and out as you wish. There is also a segment race within the race. So if you're not confident that you can challenge for the overall win, you can challenge for the segment race and just hit that segment within the race. as hard as you can, usually around about 1 kilometre long. See whether you can get yourself a segment GC placing. Which are now ticking off the kilometres to the finish, 3.2 kilometres remaining. As I say, we are live in the chat. Anybody wants to ask any questions about RGT, the event, feel free. All your chats will come through to the same location, so whether you're on Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, pretty much anywhere, we'll get your chat live in the studio. Melville now looking like he's just going to cruise the last 3 kilometres here. Richard Akers get some more power in at the end. So we've got a quick word with Richard Akers now. He's just finished doing his cool down. How is that with you, Rich?
That was fun. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, not to blow our own trumpet or anything, but I really enjoyed that course. I thought, yeah, it was second lap was just horrible. I was out on my feet, and John got I think within about 200 meters at one point. And so from then I was just like, I just need to get to the descent, and then I can perhaps hold on. But yeah, that was flipping good fun, but very tough. And I like the longer race as well, because it just means that you know, if you've yeah, it just brings a bit of endurance to the proceedings. Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
Good. It was type 2 fun for you then.
Yeah, exactly. Like I knew it was going to be around 50 minutes, so yeah, it was not only for racing, but it's good for collecting data, just seeing where I'm at over that sort of duration. I've got a few time trials, got some summer cyclocross races coming up, so yeah, it was just good to see kind of what's in the legs over a slightly longer distance than perhaps we often race on RGT.
So just a quick one on these segments. There was a segment in that race that was a Swains Lane.
Yeah.
And
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So how are we going to see that playing out? Is there a segment GC?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so there's a segment GC alongside the overall. So the segment isn't always a climb. So this week was Swains Lane, which is a famous climb in London. I've ridden up. I used to do hill reps when I lived in London up there. And there's a national series hill climb event up there. The next race we've got Florence, I think, isn't it? And that's another climb up Piazzale Michelangelo. But then we've got kilo segments in Berlin, sprint segments in Paris, another climb segment in Liège, as you would imagine. And then I think that's about it, isn't it? Girona, there's another climb segment there. But yeah, it's not just climbs. We've got some kilos, we've got some sprints, and it just adds an extra layer to it. So if you're not at the pointy end of the race, you can just pull back a little bit, ease off, and then just go hard over the segment. And you could see that actually on the first lap. I noticed it. I eased off in the final sort of 300 meters before the segment, and then went full bore up the segment. And I saw the other guys do it as well. So yeah, it just lends a really kind of interesting extra factor to a race. So yeah, I really enjoyed that.
Sorry, just while you're saying that, Vaselotti has just come over the line, and then Egger has just come over the line too. It's good to see the riders just coming over. Now we've got Carcella number 1, C Carcella in the race just coming over. They've got 1.37 kilometers remaining. So it's nice and interesting to see that you've got the segments in there that break it up and help keep the race interesting for those who, like you say, aren't potentially at the pointy end, aren't able to keep up the extended effort for the entirety of the race, but they can still take part in that competition within a competition.
Yeah. I also think it actually kind of helps in the racing as well, if you think about it, because like if the main segment is the most important part of the course, climb, for example, you've suddenly got it comes up on the screen that you've got 867 meters left of the climb, and that actually is really helpful because you can kind of gauge how long you're doing it for, whereas normally when you've got the topography down the bottom, there's not a scale, so it actually can be quite hard to judge your effort when you've got climbs in an e-race. So yeah, can be helpful tactically.
So final thing, how long do you usually warm down for after a race?
not this long. Usually, I would say at least 5 minutes. Really, it depends on the race, but yeah, you want to have a nice cool down, flush out some of the lactate, but also just have a moment of calm. So, for instance, right, I've got to go cook dinner and stuff. So it just gives me having a cool down, just gives you a moment of calm before you rejoin the chaos of life. So yeah, probably not normally this long. It's only because there's a camera on me.
Well, I'm going to take the camera off. You go back to the racing. I heard about a really cool app the other day called Rewire that might be worth looking at for you. It's helps with that kind of mental agility, the mental stresses that the workload and the exercise can put on the body. So yeah, it might be worthwhile taking a look at that. It's called Rewire. Sounds really interesting. So I'm going to let you go, Coach Rich. You get yourself stretched out. Go and do your full cool down routine, and we'll catch up with you at the next race, if not before.
Cheers, guys. Cheers, guys. Well done, everyone.
That's Coach Rich. He's just enjoying his cool down there as we see Coachella's cross the line. And we have Mendez, who will be the next rider coming through. You see the Mendez there at 1.2 kilometers remaining. Really pushing hard throughout this race. Mendez, one of the RIAK riders, takes part in the RIAK race team events. And as I mentioned earlier on in the stream, RIAK's very supportive of ladies in racing, women in racing, and if you're interested in getting into racing, they have their women's race team. I believe that's full at the moment, but they still do offer lots of help and encouragement to anybody that's interested in getting into racing, virtually or otherwise. So it's worth checking out the RIAK website and getting in touch with them if you are interested in getting involved in any of the racing. Mendez now 501 meter left to the finish line. Team Mendez there has got a little ear next to their name. They've got RIAK for their team, but they've got also a little ear there, which means that they're using the in-race radio. We haven't had the radio on and didn't see a lot of other riders using that in-race radio this evening. But it is possible to set up your own channels for team communication within the RGT app, or you can just have it on an open channel where you can hear what everyone else is saying. Not always the best thing to have it on the open channel. Can be a little bit panty, but it's a great little feature. It saves you having to open up a different app like Discord. Or keep it within the same app as we just come across the line there for Mendez. Hour and 2 minutes, 21 seconds. Mendez finishes by the Stolen Goat tent there. Stolen Goat technical tent, no doubt, just going to jump in there and get the bike overhauled. AVP still out on the course. AVP rolling in, 2 kilometers remaining for AVP here. And there we have AVP crossing the line. And if we are quick, we may just be able to see the GC. So bring that across there, and we can see there no AVP currently, but we have Richard Akers in first position, James Melville in second, Mark Vassilotti in third, Russ Egger in fourth, Chima Carcella in fifth, Chantel Mendez in sixth, and there will be AVP in seventh. In the women's classification, currently only one lady has taken part in the event at the moment, so women's classification is being led by Chantel Mendez of RIAK, and segment leader is not populated as yet. Hopefully that'll be populated shortly, and we can bring you the results of that on the onlineeventscompany.com website. So this is how the podiums look so far. Richard Akers taking the top spot in the first of the City Crit events, followed by James Melville and Mark Vasalotti, and Chantal Mendes of RIAK Racing taking the top spot in the women's classification. So that's the racing for this evening. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've had a good night watching that. Don't forget to check out the details in the descriptions for our supporters, our partners, and some discounts and promo codes that are available there. And check out the onlineeventscompany.com website for more events and the rest of the link ups for the City Crit event. That is it for tonight from me. I'm Riley Harvey. This is VCN, and we'll be back with you in 2 weeks, if not before, with some more events. Hope you have a great evening, what's left of it in the UK, and wherever else you are in the world. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Take care.